Politicians are poised in Washington to relax big rig safety rules. But a local woman whose two sisters were killed last year when an 18-wheeler hit their car says her family is fighting those changes. Fox 4's Laurie Berger live in our Fort Worth newsroom. Laurie.
Well, one of the most controversial topics in that business is how many numbers of hours that drivers spend behind the wheel. Long-haul truckers often work double the hours than a typical person does, and there's concern that the ensuing fatigue can cause an increase in crashes.
This is the crash that killed Rebecca Karth Black's younger sisters, 17-year-old Analia and 13-year-old Mary Karth.
It's been a hard year.
Since the accident in May of last year, Mary Ann Karth and her husband Jerry have become activists for truck safety.
My parents are very much about trying to take the positive out of the situation instead of focusing on the negative. So they said, well, we can't go back in time and save Analia and Mary, but we can move forward now and try to make positive changes for other people in the future so that other people don't have to deal with that.
The investigation revealed that, among other things, the driver who hit the Karths was suffering from fatigue, something police say can be just as dangerous as driving drunk.
I think that driving while you're fatigued will cause your reaction time to be slower, and especially if a driver actually falls asleep, he or she may not be able to react.
Earlier this year, the Karth family went to Washington to push for tougher safety rules and to keep Congress from reversing a rule that limits the number of hours truckers can drive per week.
There's efforts in Congress right now to roll that back to what the hours were previously, which would give drivers the opportunity to work over 80 hours a week versus the current rule, which is 70 hours in a week.
It is very discouraging to see how the trucking industry is pushing back against some of this.
The U.S. House and Senate are both preparing to vote whether to change rules on truckers' work hours. The Karths say they'll continue to fight for stricter safety standards to honor Analia and Mary's memories.
But for my parents, becoming activists has really become healing for them.
Some of the other things that the Karths want, they want those companies, the trucking companies, to be forced to use what are called electronic logging devices. They're kind of like a little black box, and that takes the error out of drivers reporting their own hours. They also want companies to be forced to increase their minimum liability insurance, and that's something that has not been updated in 30 years. Steve?
Laurie, I'm curious about the Karths. Since the Tracy Morgan big rig accident, he's severely injured. Have they felt any, I guess, push toward them to support them? Do they think that's changed any feeling either way?
Well, I mean, that's something we talked about today, and Rebecca said, you know, it's sad that it takes a celebrity getting into a crash and being affected by this, but that is something that she says is drawing some attention to it. And in fact, the Senate committee had just voted to relax the rules, and that happened 2 days before the Tracy Morgan crash that happened, you'll remember, with a Walmart driver who crashed into Morgan's limo. It killed his friend, and it seriously injured him. So there are legislators now coming out and saying, look, that law that we passed back in 2012 where we said you have to have those electronic logging devices, we want those now to be reinforced. So as this makes its way through Congress, it hasn't become final by any stretch of the imagination. It'll be interesting to see how people vote on that.
Okay. Laurie Berger in our Fort Worth newsroom. Thank you.